You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Welcome, all you believers, idealists, skeptics, all those who question the universe around them. I'm Ty.
And I'm Bailey.
And this is Cult Talk Conspiracy, our Halloween special for 2024. Our last episode of Culttober.
Long awaited
celebration of all things Halloween. We do this every year. We've been a part of it for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So it's been really fun. We talked about some really cool stuff here this year. Black-eyed children.
Yes.
Chupacabra. Coincidentally enough, these two urban legend cryptid type beings that all sprouted up in the 90s, or at least popularized themselves in the 90s. Which was an interesting coincidence, not something we planned, but it just so happened as research went, that's when they kind of fell, as they're both like very 90s tropes.
And creepy as crap.
Oh, absolutely.
Terrifying.
Black-eyed children. Those things are terrifying.
I know.
Very creepy.
I can't with the black-eyed children, and just everything about the chupacabra that's wicked. That's creepy. That I don't like. But today, this has been a very long-awaited episode.
Yeah. It's hard to believe we haven't talked about it before, and we say that so often because there are a lot of things that we still have yet to touch on that's kind of surprising. But this one for sure, we're going to be spending this October 29th, 2 days before Halloween. We're going to be talking about the missing 411, as popularized by Mr. David Paulides.
Very much long awaited. We've talked about missing 411 a lot on this channel, especially in our Bigfoot episodes.
Yes. Yeah, we did talk about it in Bigfoot. Trying to think, I think there's a couple other times we mentioned it. I think for one of the, there was one I know I brought up. It was an Encounters. I'm pretty sure I did at one point, where I talked about a very famous case in the missing 411, where the boy thought he got lost and his grandma found him, but it wasn't his grandma. And I'm thinking maybe that was back in parallel dimensions.
I'm thinking dimensions as well. I think it is actually the Dimensions Encounters episode, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where I brought that up, but yeah, that was a very interesting case. It's kind of one of the big missing 411 weird cases that people like to present. But there's so much weirdness in the missing 411. It's a very interesting history that it's very controversial as well. A lot of people have varying opinions on David Paulides and the missing 411. People either love it or they think it's just a bunch of cherry-picked nonsense.
Yeah, bunch of horse hockey.
Yes, and he's done quite well with missing 411. Documentaries, books, various interviews, appearances on TV shows, all that. There's a really good episode of American Horror Stories. It's like the American Horror Story anthology show they have.
Okay.
I believe it's called, I think it might be called Found, possibly. But it's a missing 411 episode.
Interesting.
And it's about a boy that goes missing, and then years later, his parents get a lead that he's still alive, basically. And they go into the woods to find him. And it's very interesting, and it's a missing 411 episode. It has a lot of the missing 411 key elements to it.
Nice.
I think it's called Found. I'm pretty sure, but it's on season 1 of American Horror Stories.
Okay. Interesting. That reminds me of this show, and I can't remember what it was called now. Ben and I started watching it, and we actually haven't picked it back up. But it's this show that's about this bus full of kids that goes off the cliff, and then years later they climb up out of the cliff totally fine and haven't aged or anything, and it was I think 4 or 5 years later.
Wow.
But I can't remember what the name of that show was called. So, but it was one of those where it was a deep thinky show. If you're not paying attention, it's okay.
Episode of American Horror Stories,
Feral.
Season 1, Episode 6. But that's a good one. I've never heard of that one though with the bus. It's a TV show.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have
But
to try to find that now.
Have you like read any of the books or seen the documentaries, Missing 411 stuff?
So I have not read the books yet. I have seen numerous coast to coast interviews with him with David Norrie, and
Mhm.
then he is on a few of like the History Channel stuff. So, but I haven't seen the Missing 411, The Hunted, which is
I've seen a few of the documentaries.
Mhm.
Pro tip for anyone: they come out, and this happens with small town monsters as well, where these documentaries come out like on a certain day, and they're on Prime, and you buy it or you
Mhm.
rent it, but unadvertised, it comes out on Tubi for free. So that happens with Missing 411 as well. So Small
Oh
Town Monsters
shit!
does the same thing, where Small Town Monsters is like, oh, we're dropping a new documentary on October 12th or whatever, on exclusively on Prime and Video on Demand. And you go and you find it on there, and you pay or rent it or whatever. But if you go right over to Tubi, it's there for free.
Always
So
check.
Missing 411, yeah, always check Tubi first. That's a pro tip from me to you. Always check Tubi first, especially these documentaries. But Missing 411, same thing. They'll release a new chapter because there's The Hunted. There is, I've only seen The Hunted, and I've seen the UFO Connection.
Yeah.
And the UFO Connection just came out like a month ago, and it's on Tubi for free. So
Nice.
go check out Tubi. But yeah, that one's interesting because it like collects all the Missing 411 cases that kind of have UFO related stuff around it. I think there's another one with like where it focuses on all the Bigfoot stuff,
Yep.
which you'll find when you read a lot of the Missing 411 stuff is very like leaning, but not quite saying like it's probably a Bigfoot doing this.
Yeah.
They'll kind of like allude to it, but like they don't just come out and say it. But yeah, pro tip, go check on Tubi. More than likely you'll find whatever you're looking for as far as Missing 401 and Small Town Monsters.
Sweet.
On there for free before you spend money.
Excellent.
I don't quite know the business model. It's not like it's getting uploaded illegally, but it's just very odd that you'll find them on Tubi. So I'm not sure what the idea is there, but it happens. But no, I've seen the documentaries more than I've read the books. The documentaries are all right. They can be a little dry. I will say I can't speak on the books, but the documentaries can be a little hard to hold my attention.
From the summaries I've seen with the books and the tidbits that I have gotten out of the books, they are very textbook reads. It's very much, here is the information. This is what it is.
Yeah.
He really does a good job of just reporting the information and being very unbiased about it. So it's one of those things where it's like the controversy comes in and says that he is biased, but
that's the main criticism I always see. People like are very on the fence about whether or not he is impartial or if he's like pushing a narrative.
Right. Yeah. And we'll get into that too with like what happened in his police career to sort of start that fire. But I mean, I'm excited for this one. This was one I looked at Ben after I was done writing it, and I was like, I'm really proud of this one.
Do you see? I get most of my Missing 401 stuff from Wendigoon.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite ones. And Lore Lodge.
Lore Lodge is a really good one.
And Lore Lodge, they are kind of like they no longer are like followers of Politis. Like I watched a very interesting video. They talk about how like when they first got into it, they were super into it and like very impressed by David Politis's investigation and the information he's bringing forth.
Yeah.
But as they got more into it, they've kind of changed their tune on his work.
Really?
And I don't know if that's something that happens if you like dig more into it outside the base, like creepy stuff happening in national parks. But it's another one of those things where it is like a very big like division in the Missing 411 like world. Or you either are pro Politis or you're not pro Politis.
Anti-Politis.
Yeah, anti-Politis. But that was an interesting video I watched. I think it was just one of his recent ones.
Okay.
Lore Lodge, where they're like investigating that kid that went missing. It's like a 3-part series they've done so
Yeah.
far. But he talks about in there like how, he's not really like, he doesn't buy into the narrative that David Politis pushes anymore. That he's changed his opinion on him as he's researched more into it. So
Interesting.
it's very interesting.
I'm gonna need you to send me that one because
I'll send it to you.
a lot of what I found on his past actually did come from the Lore Lodge.
Yeah.
So from where he has, Lore Lodge is amazing. Just go check him out. Free advertisement there, guy.
I think Wendigoon kind of has a similar opinion on
Really?
as well. I'm pretty sure that he's also kind of like skeptical on like the narrative that Politis pushes as well, because that is something people accuse Politis of. Like, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it here later, so I'm not going to go into it. But
yeah,
we'll talk about it here as we go into it. But I think without further ado, let's go ahead and let's celebrate Halloween.
Yes,
it's time to sit back and listen to some creepy stories and learn a little bit more about Missing 411 and Mr. David Politis. Are you ready, Bailey?
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and let's unseal file 045, the Missing 411.
We can't really talk about what the Missing 411 is without talking about how it was created, because we're going to get into it a little bit later that the Missing 411 is really more of a descriptive term that fits a number of cases with certain criteria.
Yeah.
So this is how this came to be. Who was David Politis, or who is David Politis? Excuse me. He's not passed away. So he is a former San Francisco police officer, and David gained his education through the University of San Francisco. He had both graduate and undergraduate degrees. So 3 years after joining a small municipality in the Bay Area, Politis would transfer to San Jose Police Department, where he would eventually retire from 20 years later. David's career spanned from street cop, SWAT, vice, and finally into the detective division. It would not take long for other entities to recognize David's unique skill for digging up information. Prior to his retirement from the San Jose Police Department, David received a job opportunity from a tech company, he says. And he would become an executive who was skilled in fleshing out businesses. So basically, he would do a deep dive into businesses and question the forms from the personnel, different files, and most importantly, their partnership agreements. So he stated in regards to taking on this tech job, along with while he was on the detective division, so he kind of had a side hustle, that in essence, I was using my investigative skills at an entirely different position in life. End quote. So, I mean,
that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Super talented.
Absolutely.
So, unfortunately, Politis would find himself in some legal trouble of his own while working as a police liaison, which is a very clerical position. And this would be toward the end of his career. This would be 19 years into his career. And he would be charged with a minor misdemeanor count of falsely soliciting for charity.
So he was like getting donations?
So not exactly. So Politis was using city stationery to solicit successful and famous people for their autographs. This was actually for a class that Politis was known to teach. However, he claimed it was for a charity for the city. And the city came back and was like, that doesn't exist.
So he was like sending the stationery off to like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, can I get your autograph for this thing we're doing for, the city? And the celebrity seeing the stationery with like all the official header and stuff is like, oh, okay, of course.
Yeah, thinking that it's going to be auctioned off for charity.
Then David Politis like just pockets it, like.
No, so it was meant to be for a class that he taught in years past, and it was meant to be like a motivational tool, like a prize you get at the end of the year for like highest scores or something like that. And it was meant for that, which isn't a charity. That's a class that the department teaches.
It's a prize.
Right. So he's basically telling these celebrities, hey, we're going to auction it off for charity. We're going to raise so much money for this cause. And I'm going into a little bit more detail there. It may have just been, we're raising money for charity. Please give me your autograph. And they were like, oh, here you go. I don't know. It could go either way. But they would send it back under the impression that it was going for a charitable cause, not being given away to a student in a class. And he was using city stationery on that. So he's basically lying about what the city is doing, and the city was like, fuck you. Like,
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, yeah, there's been all kinds of like recent news about like mayors and whatnot misusing city stuff.
Yeah.
It's been crazy this past year.
The small town I come from, they had or the small county I come from. I remember when I was my senior year, they had a big controversy where one of the like secretaries was somehow like siphoning off the like loose change out of the county. So it's like, if you spend like, the county would spend like, $7,000.57. She would like pocket the extra change to round it up. And like she'd done that for years, and it like adds up. There's like dozens and hundreds of transactions a day for a county.
Right.
So she was just rounding these up to even numbers and then pocketing the excess. So, and it added up over time, and they ended up finding out about it. So they're like their family. I knew their family in some way, and like they were like always like nice house, nice cars, and all that stuff. But yeah, so there's always misuse of power somewhere, even in the smallest places.
Oh yeah, it can be anywhere from like a little minor thing. And I mean, sometimes they come from the best of intentions, which I question. I question whether or not his intentions were pure, because he lied about it. I mean, he sent it out on city stationery. What was wrong with sending it out on your own stationery, or sending something out and telling them what you're doing and why you're doing it? I mean, it could, you might not have gotten as many, but you still could have done it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Making it seem like it's for charity makes it a little skeevy.
Absolutely. So a judge could then determine if David would be fined or serve jail time for the offense. But Politis never pled guilty, and there's no known records of him being terminated from the police force. Since this was his 19th year on the force and he was so close to retirement, it's likely that the higher-ups in the police department decided to not go through the hassle and the media of terminating a veteran officer and allowed David to finish his final year out in peace. So David would retire in 1997 after 20 years of service. So people do use this what's that?
Nice even round number.
Nice evens. Yeah, now it's like, I think you have to work like 30 years before you're allowed to retire. Like that number just keeps going up and up and up. So people do use this event to kind of prove that David Politis is fraudulent in his reports. But the stationery really had nothing to do with the reporting, which was something that was really good that Laura Lodge actually pointed out. Because it's like, he did put it on the stationery, but that had nothing to do with what he was reporting. But I guess you could argue that he was lying about it by not reporting what he was doing to the city.
Right. I think that if anything, it just kind of calls his morals into question. Probably, if you're able, I don't think you can like use it to be like, oh, he used the stationery, so obviously his investigations are all garbage. But you could use it as a means to be like, oh, he's not 100% truthful, and he is one to bend the truth to get what he wants. Instead of saying I want these autographs for this, he said it for that. Yeah. So it could be just evidence that he's one to bend the truth a little bit. Yeah,
I mean that's where I'm a little gray on it, because he's done a lot of good, but also how long are you going to hold that against him too? Because I mean, this was back in 1996, 1997.
Right.
Yeah. But David's investigation career would not end in 1997. Shortly after his retirement, he would be approached by an organization who required an impartial investigator. He stated the organization wanted to find the truth around Bigfoot, not to solve the question of existence. So Politis would conclude that Bigfoot is a form of hominid and that they lived a long time ago. So another form of human, not like the ape-like creature that is also theorized to be a Bigfoot.
Right.
So while investigating this particular case of the truth around Bigfoot, park rangers would begin to approach him and tell him that about the disappearances that had occurred in these national parks. And they would tell them that they were not being investigated properly. And as a matter of fact, they were being put on the back burner and were given very minor attention by the National Park Service. There was no national database for how many people went missing in national parks. No follow-up and not a lot of law enforcement or not a lot of enforcement on how to handle these cases and what to do in these cases from start to finish. Now, much later in 2019, the book Missing 411, The Hunted, would estimate about 1,200 people have gone missing in national parks. However, it's likely there's even more that have just not been reported. Now, I did look up a statistic for 2023, and the 2023 estimate was about 1,800 went missing in national forest.
Just unsolved cases.
Unsolved cases of people going missing in national forests. It's insane. And I mean, it's crazy, but all of this craziness is what sparked the Missing 411 books. The first Missing 411 book would come out in 2011 called Missing 411, Western United States and Canada, Unexplained Disappearance of North Americans That Have Never Been Solved.
I remember when this book came out, I've always been like a conspiracy guy. I've always been into the cryptids and UFOs and all that stuff. So I've always been in those communities. I remember when the first book came out, it was huge. Like I remember even Yahoo covered it and like all the major like news platforms covered this book because it was just like a shock when it came out. So there's all these cases that happen in these areas and it's just there's no solution to them.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like, I'll compare it to now where, people are going crazy over all of these serial killer documentaries. And, it's, first of all, it's something that we don't know about. It's something that we can't fathom happening in our own daily lives. And to think that just nothing is being done is unfathomable. Like, I'm a problem solver. And to think that there's a problem out there and no one's doing anything, it's like, what the fuck is happening? So I get it. I understand. I understand the hype around it. So this book would be the first of many that would look at the similarities, traits, and geological clusters of where people had gone missing. This book took 3 years and over 7,000 hours of investigation from those first conversations with park rangers in 2009. People went absolutely crazy for this book, and good thing because David had plenty more cases to share. On March 1st, 2012, he released his second book, Missing 411 Eastern United States. His third, on January 1st, 2013, Missing 411 North America and Beyond. And his fourth, January 1st, 2014, Missing 411, The Devil's in the Details. And then, as previously stated in 2019, the Missing 411 book, documentary, The Hunted, which would talk about missing cases that had gone unexplained in North American woods where hunters had gone missing.
I believe that's either it's The Hunted or it's Missing 411, the movie, because like I think Missing 411, the movie came out first, but the one like focuses a lot on Dior. What's his name? He's the little boy that went missing, just like right in his family's camp. But I know that one focused a lot on that. It was kind of trying to dissect like whether or not the parents were at fault or if it was something else.
Yeah.
But that one I remember watching that one a few times, and I think that's on. I think That's on Hulu, I'm pretty sure. 'Cause I
Okay.
know The Hunted is. I think The Hunted's also on
Mhm.
Hulu.
The Hunted's on a lot of things. Like, they do a very good job of making sure their stuff is very visible.
Accessible, yeah.
Hmm.
It's probably on Tubi.
Probably. Well, we know the newest one
UFO
is the
phenomenon,
UFO. Yeah. So, what makes it a missing 411 case? So, as stated earlier, missing 411 is more of a descriptive term rather than an actual thing. So, there has to be a certain numbers of factors met before a case can be declared a missing 411 case. The actual organization Politis dedicated to investigating these cases is called the Can-Am Missing Project. And
Okay.
from their About Us page, Can-Am Missing is a group of retired police officers, search and rescue experts, SAR, and other professionals that are dedicated to researching on scene investigation and generally understanding the issues associated with people who go missing in the wilds of North America. One
So
of
it's made up of a lot of retired
Yeah.
police officers.
Yeah, retired police officers, search and rescue people, search and rescue doggies. So they're all just out there searching for, these thousands of missing people that are in our national forest.
So just to update, Tubi does have all three of the movies. It has Missing 411 the movie, Missing 411 the Hunted, and Missing 411 the UFO connection.
Nice.
Check that out real quick.
There we go. Go to Tubi.
Absolutely.
So one of the factors to fit a missing 411 criteria is the person has to totally disappear or is never found. So no evidence of the person leaving the site, tracks stopping out of nowhere, or a child that has just been seen in seconds before disappearing, completely out of the area. So people who are found in places that is impossible for them to get to or from their last known location. So a child ends up on the side of a cliff after being seen near a creek, a disabled person making it tens of miles as the crow flies away from where they were last seen. Those are all from previous missing 411 cases, by the way. Like those examples all come from those. Another small detail is surviving the disappearance without any equipment or proper dress or even know-how of how to get around that certain terrain and what to do in a survival situation for days on end.
Mhm.
So people also found in the woods in strange positions, even positions that seem impossible for them to get to without being put there. So people who have been found in areas that had previously been searched a number of times and no body was discovered or no living person was discovered there.
That's always stands out to me in these cases where, like,
Mhm.
especially with like the kids, where they like will search an area, then like years later, they find like a body
Yeah.
just like within like feet or within right in the middle of the range of where they was searching, just there. Like it blows my mind. So that makes it even all the more mysterious because no one has a real answer as like why that is. Like,
Yeah. And I mean, it's for me, I almost wonder if it's a timeline thing where they could have been kidnapped or, just could have made their way over to that
Mhm.
area after it had been searched and that's why.
Yeah.
But also, like, could it have been there the whole time and it was just not found? It could just be as simple as that. I don't know. But those freak me out as well because it's like, and it's also like that feeling of defeat, like they were right there.
Yes. Yeah, especially because they have like dogs and everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
those things are pretty like acute at finding things. So
Oh, yeah.
to think that there could be just a kid like right within like feet of them and it just by it goes right past them.
Yeah. So people that are found alive often experience acute amnesia and are unable to recall what happened to them while they were missing or how they ended up where they were found. This amnesia can actually be caused by adrenaline as your body goes into fight or flight mode and keeps running in and out of it for days on end. Other strange factors include missing clothes or shoes or very vague reasons for cause of death listed on their death certificate or even an undetermined cause of death being listed. So, controversy and criticism Of course, the success of Missing 411 doesn't come without some very harsh opinions of its founder, David Paulides. A Reddit thread that I discovered detailed how during his street cop days, he was known to hang around a bookstore and was nicknamed the king of the bookstore deal. And it was an adult bookstore, and basically he hung out. The theory is he hung out around there to make arrests and like just get an easy day from it, is what was reported in that thread.
Okay.
The thread also detailed some other reprehensible behavior. However, when I attempted to find the sources that were listed on this exact thread, I could not find them. I tried independently searching them, could not find them, and this was briefly. So I could not find where these articles that these are being pulled from were legitimate. As mentioned earlier, people do try to use the charge of falsely soliciting autographs as a way of discrediting him. Again, no records were found that he pled guilty or was terminated from the position due to this. Paulides has also been accused of cherry-picking cases and to not include the missing 411 case, or to include them. There are some cases that meet all of the criteria in the missing 411 books and case review, but there's also cases that don't check a single box. So it really calls into question, is this truly a missing 411 case? And if it isn't, why is it being called one? Or what is the point of their criteria?
Right. If you're not going to follow it, what's even the point of defining it?
Exactly. Missing 411 has enormous popularity. And David has appeared multiple times on Coast to Coast with George Norrie. There are also 11 Missing 411 books and a 12th named Bigfoot, Wild Men, and Giants.
I'd like to read that one. I know that one.
Okay.
Is it out or is it?
That one's out, yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Okay. Paulides is also regularly posts on the Can-Am Missing Project's YouTube channel, where he discusses missing 411 cases, strange occurrences like on Skinwalker Ranch, and other strange occurrences. Today, people are certainly more aware of people who go missing in our national forests and what is going on. And it's far more than the efforts that were taken in 2009 coming all the way up to 2024. However, the search is always ongoing, and most areas in national and American national parks are still untouched by man, making the search that much harder.
Yeah. I think that's one of the main things you can take away is like, despite the criticism and, the accusations against Paulides, I mean, there is kind of like a silver lining to it, regardless, that he did bring a lot of attention to just all these people that have gone missing. That's not debatable.
Right, exactly.
There's a large number of people that do go missing in national parks, and unfortunately, a large majority of those are considered to be cold cases or unsolved. So, I mean, for him to just, I guess, bring attention to the pattern or these large areas in which people have gone missing. I think whether or not you believe in the like crux of the missing 411, where the supernatural elements or what have you, I think it still does. It is justified. There is a lot more attention on this stuff now, regardless.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we now have numbers and estimates of people who have gone missing in national forests. And I mean, we're talking about less than 2 decades ago. We had nothing like that. And that's a result of the research that has gone into people who go missing in national forests and what Missing 411 has done for the National Park Service, as well as for the public and to the families of those who have gone missing in national forests, and hopefully provide them with some closure, or at least make them feel like someone is out there looking for their loved one.
Absolutely. Well, before we talk about the theories surrounding the missing 411, because there is a lot of theories that have been proposed by the diehards, by Mr. Paulides himself, we decided, what we do is, much like we do with our Encounters episodes, Bailey and I will each present a missing 411 case that kind of stood out to us, or that we feel is kind of a prominent case within the missing 411 mythology. So we're going to go back to back on that, and then we're going to talk about the theories here afterwards. I'm going to go first.
Sweet.
And I picked one that is pretty well known. I would say if it's not the most famous missing 411 case, It's probably one of them. It's been covered a lot. There's a lot of people with theories and various ideas behind what could be, and that is the case of Dennis Martin. Are you familiar with this one, Bailey?
I'm going to go with no, but honestly, the name sounds familiar, but I cannot recall the case. So I'm going with no.
Okay. Well, it was Father's Day weekend in 1969, and the Martin family had set out on a cherished tradition, an annual camping trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. For Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old from Knoxville, Tennessee, it was a time of adventure and bonding with his father, grandfather, and his older brother. So it was a boys' trip out
Oh,
to the Smoky Mountains.
his mama looked at all those men and went, "Don't come home without my baby. Don't come home."
The group had hiked from Cades Cove to Russell Field, where they camped overnight under the vast canopy of the Appalachian wilderness. The next day, they continued their journey to Spence Field, a serene meadow near the Appalachian Trail. On the afternoon of June 14th, the peacefulness of the trip was shattered in an instant. At approximately 4:30 p.m., Dennis and the other children, including his brother and a few kids from a nearby family, decided to play a harmless prank on the adults. The plan was simple. They would sneak up and surprise their parents. Dennis, full of excitement, was last seen by his father as he ducked behind a bush to hide. But what should have been a moment of innocent fun turned into a nightmare. Minutes ticked by, and while the other children reemerged, Dennis did not. His father, initially thinking his son was still hiding, quickly grew concerned. He called out, but there was no response. Panic set in. Dennis's father began to search frantically, running down the trail for nearly 2 miles, desperate to find any sign of his son. But Dennis had vanished without a trace. The area where Dennis disappeared was unforgiving. Marked by steep slopes and deep ravines, it was a wild place, home to creatures like copperhead snakes, bears, feral hogs, and bobcats.
None of those are good.
None of them. None of those things are anything you want to run into while in the woods. To make matters worse, a sudden downpour struck the area shortly after Dennis went missing. The storm unleashed 3 inches of rain in just a few hours, washing out trails, flooding streams, and making the nearby treacherous terrain even more perilous. And to make it worse, the temperature that night plummeted nearly 50 degrees.
Oh, gosh.
Raising fears for Dennis's safety as the cold and wet conditions began to set in. Despite the overwhelming odds, the search for Dennis Martin began immediately.
Oh, wonderful.
The National Park Service Rangers were soon joined by the National Guard and even the Green Berets.
Wow.
Bringing the total number of searchers to nearly 1,400.
Oof.
But despite that, the elements were against them. Heavy rain and mist obscured visibility, and the sheer number of people involved inadvertently may have trampled over any vital clues. So you have, it could have been footprints maybe left by, any sort of physical evidence of where he may have gone, but you have 1,400 people trampling around this area. They could have destroyed evidence or maybe clues that could have led to Dennis. A few days into the search, there was a glimmer of hope. Child-sized footprints were discovered near a stream.
Oh my gosh.
One foot was barefoot, while the other wore a shoe similar to the Oxford shoes Dennis had on when he disappeared. But park officials quickly dismissed the tracks.
Why?
They believed they belonged to a Boy Scout who was also involved in the search.
Why would the Boy Scout take his
Have
one
only one
shoe
shoe, yeah.
off?
Yeah.
I hate it when people are stupid like this.
Dwight McCarter, a retired park ranger with years of experience, disagreed. He believed the prints were Dennis's. They were isolated, not part of a group, and none of the Boy Scouts had been searching barefoot.
Thank you, Blake.
Dwight.
Blayton. Thank you, Blayton.
Dwight.
What the fuck is his name?
Dwight.
Dwight. I thought you said his name was Blayton.
No, Dwight McCarter.
Oh
Where'd
my
you get
God.
Blayton, bro?
I
didn't
have
mention
no
anyone named
idea.
Blayton.
I have no idea. Okay, thank you, Dwight.
As days turned into weeks, the search area expanded to cover 56 square miles. But still, no sign of Dennis was found. By June 26th, the operation was scaled back, and on September 14th, 1969, the search was officially called off, leaving the Martin family without answers. It to this day remains the largest search in the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Oh my gosh.
Years passed, but the mystery of Dennis Martin's disappearance never faded. His father, desperate for answers, offered a $5,000 reward, a sum that at the time, 1969, would be worth over $40,000 today. But no credible leads ever emerged. Then, in a chilling twist, a ginseng hunter came forward in 1985, claiming that years earlier he had stumbled upon the scattered skeletal remains of a small child in Big Hollow, Tremont.
Oh no.
Fearing prosecution for illegal ginseng harvesting, he had kept the discovery to himself. When authorities finally searched the area, they found nothing, leaving the mystery as dark as the day Dennis disappeared. Throughout the years, strange and unsettling theories have surfaced. On the day Dennis vanished, a tourist named Harold Key and his family were hiking near Rowan's Creek, just a few miles from Spence Field. They heard what they called an enormous, sickening scream. And moments later, they saw a rough-looking, disheveled man running through the woods, carrying something over his shoulder. This something resembled a pile of clothes. Could this man have been involved in the disappearance? The FBI investigated, but found no conclusive evidence to link the sighting to the missing boy. Now, it's interesting because I read more into Harold Key and like his claims.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually described what his family saw as like a man in a ghillie suit.
Oh, okay.
So like a Bigfoot is kind of like, because that's something that Bigfoot's often mistaken for.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Or people will initially believe that's what they're seeing when they see a Bigfoot. They'll think, oh, it's someone in a ghillie suit or something like that. Their mind doesn't immediately jump to Bigfoot.
Right. I mean, the scream too.
Yeah, because Bigfoot, there's a ton of recordings you can find online.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this is one time I went camping with my friends. We went camping. It was like 4 or 5 of us, and we were out by the bonfire. And it was night. We were in the middle of the woods, and we were talking about Bigfoot and all this. And I had like a recording that I found online of like a Bigfoot's call.
Mm-hmm.
So I played that on my phone. Like I played it to see, just out loud. We had like a speaker we hooked up. So I played it over that. And one of my buddies, when we did that, had taken like a Snapchat video of me doing it.
Oh, great.
But I didn't know he did that. So like we play this loud call of this Bigfoot, whatever, into the night. And then we pause. And then we hear it back. Back.
Oh, shit.
He had the video on his phone he just took. So it played. It played off his phone. It scared the shit all of us.
Yeah, no. We're packing all of this up in pitch black. I don't give a fuck. We have fucked around. We have found out. Now we're leaving. No, thank you.
But the reason I picked this one, because it's been talked about a ton. You can find Lore Lodge, Windigoon. All the big hitters have done videos on Dennis Martin. But the reason I want to talk about this is because I found a YouTube channel years ago. About 5 years ago, there's a YouTube channel called South Force 10.
Okay.
Very small YouTube channel, very low views. And I stumbled upon this, I'm talking probably when it first came out, like 5 years ago, just in my scouring of weird things. And it has a video called Dennis Martin solved at last.
Really?
These hills do have eyes.
Oh, shit.
Now, again, this is a very small YouTube channel. I never see anyone else talk about this. I stumbled upon it years ago. But it is an unnamed man. You never see him. You just hear him. And he's outside of, I believe it's Gatlinburg. Because you can see the city in the background. He's like walking through a cemetery the whole time. And he's just filming the cemetery as he's walking. And you hear him talking. And he's telling the story of his uncles and others in the area around the Smoky Mountains were employed by the U.S. government. And the U.S. government basically paid them to every few months, they would get access to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And their job was to go in and hunt, track, and kill these wild men.
Oh my freaking gosh.
Now, these wild men were basically these feral creatures that had like no intelligence. They were very primal. And his uncle and all these people would go out and they basically treated them like coyotes. They were just seen as basically a nuisance at this time.
Oh my
they
gosh.
would basically what happened is local farmers or neighbors around the area would call the police department and be like, hey, my dog went missing, or my missing chickens or whatever. And as those reports would tally up, the government would then step in and be like, okay, we need to go and call this. We need to call the numbers down. They're getting too big. They're starting to take things.
Right.
So then his uncles and various other people would just get access to the park. They'd go in, they'd hunt them down, they'd kill them, and they'd get paid for however many they killed. Now, like I said, up to that point, they were just saw as nuisance. They were just like we treat coyotes here in Ohio, and I'm sure other places. But coyotes, you basically there's certain periods of time when you
Which
can
is all the time.
Coyotes and get money, yeah.
Which is all the time.
Yeah. So that's basically what they were seen as until Dennis Martin went missing. Once Dennis Martin went missing, that kind of pushed things further because now they went from taking chickens and dogs and cats and shit to now they took a small child.
Yeah.
So that's why the Green Berets were called in.
Oh, shit.
So the Green Berets were called in, and this man, South Force 10, his uncle, and the other people would basically lead these Green Berets into the woods, show them where these things were. And the Green Berets were basically on an extermination mission. They were just killing these things by the dozen.
Oof.
No known population of these creatures has ever been calculated because it seemed like every time they'd kill them, they'd come back. There would be more. There'd be more. So you'd kill a dozen, there'd be a dozen more. And it kept doing that.
It's just this whole community.
Yeah.
Of
there's been theories that there's maybe cave system. Well, we know there's cave systems, but cave systems under the Great Smoky Mountains are probably where they predominantly stay. They come to the surface to hunt and things of that nature. So as we're killing the ones on the surface, that's not even touching the larger population below.
Very Descent style.
Yes.
Just
now, again, this is like a YouTube channel that I'll link below.
Absolutely.
Because it's something that, and like he has a few of these videos, and you never find out who he is. He's just outside of, I believe it's Gatlinburg.
Nice.
And he just walks the cemetery and he's talking about these, his uncles, his family, and their interactions with the Green Berets and the government to go and hunt these wild men. And he claims that's what killed Dennis Martin, was that he stumbled upon a wild man and they took him and killed him. And that for the most part, anyone that goes missing in the Great Smoky Mountains is likely to have been claimed by one of these wild men creatures.
Oof. How eerie, but like totally possible. Like, oh, that's creepy. Because I have heard stories of the wild men too, and it's very like they are like these feral creatures that just live off the land, and like it. I don't even know what I would do if I encountered somebody like
Yeah.
that.
Because we talk about them in the Bigfoot series we did earlier this year, and like you can't even really classify them as Sasquatch. So Sasquatch is like a primate, but these are just wild men. Is basically what they're classified as. You know, it's people that have gotten lost or some sort of like de-evolution. Like that's what they're classified as.
Oh man.
So what do you got for us, Bailey?
Oh, I have this one was one of the first ones that I heard that really kind of hooked me onto the Missing 411 series. So this takes place in the Devil's Den State Park, which is a 2,500 acre Arkansas state park located in Washington County. The park also has an 8-acre lake. Located in Lee Creek Valley, Devil's Den received its name due to its approximate 60 crevice caves. This actually led to rumors of outlaws using the caves and the steep terrain as hideouts from the law.
That makes sense, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So a hike through Devil's Den has actually been rated moderate to moderately challenging. The park is known for its rugged terrain and slate mountain. It's actually located near Boston Mountain, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
So on June 16th, 1946, 8-year-old Catherine Van Alst, her 2 older brothers, and their parents were staying in one of the numerous cabins Devil's Den has to offer. On this day, Catherine's 2 brothers would opt to play in a nearby creek, accompanied by their father. This creek was located like near a dam, which the dam was what kind of like led to the creek.
Okay.
So very large area. So there was an area where the the creek was a little bit steeper and made for stronger swimmers. And then there was another area of the dam that was more shallow and had like rocky formations that kids could climb on and everything. And, 2 very separate areas that could be utilized. So Catherine was not a strong swimmer, being so little. So she would actually opt to play in the more shallow end while her brothers played in the deeper end. And they were accompanied by their father, John, this whole time. So John was now watching all 3 children in 2 different areas of the dam. So he would look,
Got his hands full.
He's got his hands full. Like I have at the time of recording, I have a 17-week-old puppy and she's fast. She's very hard to watch from time to time. And she's quiet. She's fast and she's quiet. There's 2 things. And she's going to be massive. These are 3 things that shouldn't go together. So John would basically look and watch his sons, turn and look and watch Catherine, and he would repeat this process. And this would go on all the way up until he looked over to look at Catherine and she wasn't there anymore. So John would go over to where she was playing, thinking that maybe she was in a blind spot and he just couldn't see her. But when he arrived at the area, she still wasn't there. So John then alerted the 2 older brothers and asked if they had seen their sister, and they said no. He began to ask others around the dam if they had seen his daughter on both areas. And this would then result in almost everyone located at the dam starting to search for Catherine. So people were going all around the area, the surrounding woods, even just doing a brief search. People were even diving into the water to ensure that she had not drowned. Yeah. This would then begin the 6-day search for Catherine Van Alst. Police and search and rescue operatives would search the dense forested area around the dam. And there were a couple of different theories that started to circulate amongst the authorities of the search. The first theory came in after 2 days of not finding a single sign of Catherine. They theorized that she had probably drowned somewhere in the dam, and they began to think later that she had actually wandered off. So they searched the dam, they searched the water and whatnot, still can't find her. Then they decide to expand their search out to the surrounding forest area. So at this point, the 200 searchers were now grouped and along with bloodhounds were going into the forest to search for the missing 8-year-old girl. Helicopters were flying overhead for a bird's eye view of the den in hopes of seeing the child. So, a lot of people, a lot of effort. They've got eyes in the sky, eyes on the ground, bloodhounds. They are really searching for this kid. And then on June 22nd, Porter Chaddock, who had joined the search from Pine Bluff, he was a student of Arkansas University, yelled out Catherine's name 7 miles from where the girl had gone missing. And to his shock and joy, he heard a small voice shout, "Here I am," back to him.
Wow.
7 miles away.
Jesus.
Yep.
What made him decide to do that? Was he just...
They had expanded the search. I think the entire search ended up going out about 12 miles from around the den where she had, ended up being found. And 200 people, it sounds like a lot, but you can only search so much area at one time. I saw a search and rescue video one time where they basically, everyone stands in a line and they're hooked together. And that basically, they walk through the forest and clear the area, back and forth, kind of in a, Z formation. 7 miles out.
That's wild.
Catherine came out of the nearby cave barefoot and still dressed in her swimsuit after 6 days. Other than having some scratches on her arms, bug bites, obvious shock, and a slight sunburn, Catherine was okay. Catherine's dad, John, didn't actually find out that his daughter had been found until a newspaper was brought to him the next day, explaining the discovery. So here's the thing. The sheriff had actually ordered John to go rest after 3 days of nonstop searching. So this man was up for 72 hours searching for his daughter. And the sheriff told him to go rest. So he was taken to a nearby tourist cabin to rest and, do whatnot. So then some folks came up with breakfast for him the next day. And one of the guys had a newspaper. And John saw the newspaper. And that was how he learned that his daughter had been found.
Wow.
Yep. Isn't that crazy to think that you could find out through a newspaper instead of just calling someone?
Yeah.
Hey.
How'd she get 7 miles away?
We don't know. We don't know. So
what did she say?
So it turns out Catherine had become lost after trying to walk back to her cabin that the family was staying in. And she said she just couldn't find it. So Catherine just kept walking through the forest. She doesn't know why she kept walking. She just kept walking. She would say that she would sleep lying in the grass or in numerous caves around the forest. She actually told Porter Chaddock that she had given up hope on anyone ever finding her. And this was because she never heard anyone shouting her name and never saw any helicopters flying in the sky above. Although she did hear the helicopters, but could never get out from under the trees in order to see them. And she didn't think the helicopters were searching for her. Wow. She was just hoping to find them by happenstance, really.
Yeah.
She also...
That's gotta suck.
Oh my gosh, just the total despair. Oh man.
That's kind of like what it's like too with these people that do go missing is much like in the ocean. There's a very slim chance of her being found. If you're in deep enough forest, even just flying over, there's not a whole lot you can really do because you're obscured by trees and foliage, things like that. So it's just a really awful situation because you could be right underneath a helicopter and they just not even see it.
Not see you at all. Yeah. It's defeating. It's just, I hate it. I don't like to lose, in case anyone has picked up that personality trait. Catherine also saw no living creature while she was out in the forest, although she did hear dogs barking that were part of the search and rescue efforts, which does indicate that they were close to where Catherine was located, but the dogs didn't pick up her scent.
That sucks.
Oh man. Again.
But then it kind of goes too. I wonder how often does that happen? Right.
Yeah. Because there's all kinds of different cases of dogs just dropping scents. And that's nothing against the dog. I don't know why it happens. Basically, I'm ignorant to search and rescue dogs. I don't know why it happens, but I know it happens. So she had been in the cave that she was found in for several days and actually drank from the nearby pool while eating berries that she had found. So for most of her time in the forest, she doesn't remember what happened or how she got 7 miles as the crow flies away from the dam. She did say that she saw a creature with long legs and a turtle while in a deep cave, and those were the only living things that she actually saw.
Huh.
Catherine did say in the hospital while being treated that it felt pretty good to be famous, but not as good as it will feel to get home.
Wow.
So nice
How
little.
old was she?
She was 8.
Wow.
8 years old, missing for 6
Damn.
days, survived barefoot in a swimsuit.
Yeah, she just overcame like all the statistics basically. So
Yeah.
statistically, isn't it like 20, 48 hours, something like
48,
that?
yeah.
It's like after that, your chances drastically go down.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That is insane. Like the 8-year-old surviving that long, 6 days, 7 miles in a cave.
In a cave.
I mean, even eating berries, that's pretty
Mhm.
sketchy. Because there's a lot of berries that'll kill you. So
Right. And that I thought about that too. And I actually found the newspaper clipping of the day that she was found. And there is a photo of her. And this little girl looks like she was lost in the woods for 6 days. She's emaciated. She looks rough. But I mean, she's there. Like she's alive. She doesn't, appear to have any extremely bad injuries, which I mean, 8-year-olds are still kids and are super clumsy. I mean, I'm 28 and are still super clumsy. So to not fall in the woods or get caught by anything and just the not seeing any living creature while she was out there, that's creepy to me because most of the time when you see animals kind of go away like that, it's because there's a predator nearby. Like they're trying to get away from it.
Now, I've read some stories with like the kids, and like specifically with kids going missing. There have been reports of like kids who are found talking about like hairy men
Mm-hmm.
or creatures such as that. And I've read a few where like the theory is that maybe these creatures aren't malevolent, and like the ones that are found, like maybe these creatures are like pushing them towards civilization,
Yeah.
or like in a sense protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're thinking about evolution and things of that nature, Bigfoot would theoretically be in our same like gene pool as this like hominid,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
sapien of some kind. So the idea would be that maybe it has some sort of connection,
Mm-hmm.
paternal instinct, or what have you. So with a child, that it would kind of protect or watch over,
Mm-hmm.
or want it to be returned back to its tribe, is what
Yeah.
people will say. So there is that theory as well, that maybe maybe that's what it was. Maybe that there was something looking over her, watching out for her, maybe protecting her, but she was in some unseen manner. So
I could believe that because even us as humans, we have that. Like we see a kitten on the side of the road and we're like, oh my gosh, I have to help it. Some humans, I'm not going to say anything, but some humans. So,
well, let's talk about some of the theories, because Bailey was tasked with finding, exploring David Paulides and the origins of missing 411. And I was tasked with pulling in some of the theories behind the missing 411. And there are some theories for sure. The intriguing aspect of many 411 cases lies the numerous potential for infinite number of directions you could take them. And that is one part of the criticism for David Paulides, is that many presume that he takes a case and just pushes it toward the most supernatural, outlandish scenario he can find. One potential possibility is that wild animals, or more specifically, a Bigfoot-like creature, could be attacking individuals. Now, there's also the potential for natural hazards such as rugged terrain, unpredictable weather, or wildlife encounters, natural wildlife encounters.
right.
That explains some of these disappearances. But there are some very peculiar circumstances surrounding the missing 411. These disappearances sometimes do involve a sudden change in weather. Now you can look back at Dennis Martin
Yeah.
as an example. He goes missing, and then all of a sudden, there's a torrential downpour. Typically a sudden heavy downpour, thunderstorms. This unexpected weather alters the search efforts and increases the challenge of ever finding the person that's missing. The similarity in locations, often remote, like woodlands or national parks being the most popular of all the missing 411 cases, coupled with numerous eyewitnesses reporting sightings of strange figures or creatures. I think it's interesting. I wasn't doing this intentionally because I had picked out my case prior to doing this portion of it. But it was interesting as I found these, similarities in cases and possible explanations that I was able to draw so many parallels with Dennis Martin.
Really?
You have the weather change. You have the reports of the savage, enormous scream, and
right.
the hairy man. Now, this raises questions about potential Bigfoot type creature involvement. These wilderness settings also complicate rescue efforts, making it easier for people to vanish without a trace. We saw this with the little girl. Had she had not just been in that area where that guy was looking, she would have been lost for time. I mean, she may have survived 6 days, but how much longer could she have survived on her own? The mystery of the missing 411 conspiracy remains genuine and lacks a definitive explanation despite these natural considerations. In addition to the natural explanations, there are numerous theories involving paranormal and supernatural elements. These include connections with the alleged UFOs. I know I said earlier it was kind of dry, but if you had the time, check out the UFO connection, missing 411, because it is pretty interesting. Because there is kind of this parallel, I think, that people overlook when talking about missing 411 is all the cases of alien abductions.
Yes.
Could those be in there with missing 411?
It checks the boxes.
Absolutely. Alien abductions and mysterious portals. We have seen that a few times. I think you can probably draw evidence with that for the many cases where you find someone who's missing, you find their body miles and miles away. Or in the case you were talking about earlier, finding it in the same location where you're searching.
Oh, yes.
Like, could they have slipped into some sort of alternate reality or some dimension and just been impossible to find? Regions with high disappearance rates often witness heightened activity like Bigfoots, UFOs, aliens, and these locations could potentially hold the key to unraveling these disappearances and shedding light on other intriguing phenomena. The story of an alleged alien encounter in Luumäki, Finland. While a family was gathering blueberries one summer afternoon in August 1965, while the family members were spread out picking berries, the father heard an unusual bubbling sound. To his surprise, a 3-foot-tall being, described as decisively strong, with red-orange skin and tight green overalls, appeared before him.
Overalls?
Yeah, overalls.
Okay.
Spacesuit.
Oh!
It's the 60s, so...
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, you never know. Everyone had the idea of what aliens may have worn. The skin-tight spacesuits. The figure swiftly approached the witness and then vanished just a few feet away. The possible connection to this encounter is debatable. However, it is worth noting that many reappearing individuals often mention encountering strange figures, observing them from the woods or bushes. These figures tend to disappear or flee, attempting to lure the person to follow them. Have you ever heard the predator sightings and stuff?
Yes.
Where people see the partially transparent predator type creatures?
Yup. I'm not a fan of that. Or there's been reports of them hearing stuff.
Yes.
That's no.
There was a couple videos you can find online. People claiming to have video evidence of them, but it's very easy to mistake that for like glitches in the camera
Yeah.
or pixelation, things of that nature.
Also, not the apocalypse we want, guys. Not that one. Not that one.
Furthermore, the notion of a portal or rift in space-time adds another layer of mystery to these cases. Many of these disappearances are associated with strange, unexplained phenomena that suggest the involvement of forces beyond our understanding. For example, the prevalence of the color red among the missing individuals. This is something that I had never really tied to until I started looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, the people that go missing are wearing red.
Oh,
Shirts,
gosh.
shoes, hats. So that's something you can tie to it. Maybe that's easier for whatever or whomever is taking these things to target their victims.
Whew.
Human-related factors also play a significant role in these mysterious disappearances. The truth is, we continue to examine and recall each one of the remaining cases in the missing 411. And there are literally hundreds. But aside from patterns that emerge, and they will continue to do so,
Mhm.
we are still no closer as a collective to discovering just what is causing these disappearances and how we can protect ourselves. The possibility of foul play, such as criminal activity or intentional disappearances, cannot be overlooked. For instance, one of the most peculiar aspects of these mysterious disappearances is the high number of berry pickers. People looking for berries.
Okay. That's what I thought you said. I was like, what?
Yeah, there's a lot of cases where that's like the setup for it. It's like we were out picking berries, or
Just
the
tell the
person went to go
truth.
pick some berries, or
Tell the truth. Y'all were out going to smoke a joint or have
Yeah.
sex or just do some bullshit that you know you weren't supposed to be doing. Like,
it's quite strange that numerous people sharing this same hobby go missing, possibly suggesting more than just a coincidence. There are also suggestions that some of these disappearances could be connected to serial killers or illicit activities in remote areas. Pot farmers. That's something that people have suggested could be a result of a lot of the cases.
yeah.
Maybe people are out hiking, they stumble across a pot farm, an illegal pot farm, and they make them disappear. There is a documentary on Hulu. I think it's called Sasquatch.
Okay.
Deceptively so. So it's set up like there's this urban legend. There's all this evidence for in this area in Northern California, where basically the idea was that this Bigfoot came in and killed all these farmers. And as it goes, this person comes in, they start investigating it. It was actually the cartel
Oh.
killed all these people who were farming pot.
Oh, no.
But the urban legend in the area, and because there's all this evidence for it, there's like, there's pictures and death certificates of all these people that got killed in this massacre, and everyone just is like, oh, it was Bigfoot, but it was actually the cartel.
Oof. Do you think they said it was Bigfoot because it was the cartel?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's too like fear as well. Like,
yeah,
you don't want to be talking about the cartel killing. So it's like, it was Bigfoot.
It was a Bigfoot. Yep.
Yeah. Probably the safer way to go.
Isn't that
Moreover,
crazy?
some theories suggest that these missing people could be part of a seemingly outlandish but sickly conspiracy revolving around breeding programs. Now, the elite could be using these people to maintain their own youth and just for general slavery purposes. Several researchers have spoken of their belief in such programs, including the controversial David Icke, who all but indirectly connects such disappearances and underground programs to aspects of the reptilian conspiracy. So, with kids, they could be taking them, maturing them into slaves, like, it's child labor. The role of the government in these cases also raises significant questions. Many of these disappearances over the years have involved FBI participation, leading to speculation about alternative motives and hidden knowledge. The idea that these disappearances might be linked to covert government operations, or that the government may have knowledge of what is truly happening and is just choosing to cover them up? Or might these bizarre experiences share a connection with cases of alleged alien abduction? There are many similarities, perhaps not least the sudden reappearance of many of the victims. Travis Walton, I believe is who it is, the very famous case of alien abduction where he where he came back. There's a movie about him with Robert Patrick in it.
Okay.
Fire in the Sky. It's a great movie. It's on Hulu, I believe.
Yes, you're correct.
If there is someone, that's a great one, and a very like a scary fucking movie at the end when you see they do the reenactment of his abduction.
Ooh.
And it is like some terrifying body horror, especially for when it came out in the early 90s.
Oh man.
If there is some common ground between apparent cases of alien abduction and these truly bizarre missing 411 cases, then it would force us to re-examine both subjects entirely. The involvement of government agencies in these cases could suggest an effort to cover up or suppress information. Whether it is some strange phenomena that we don't understand, a portal or interdimensional gateway, whether it is a dark, sickly conspiracy involving the higher echelons of the elite, these ideas remain a significant part of the discussion. Despite delving into various bizarre aspects of these cases, a clear path to uncovering the truth behind these strange disappearances remains elusive. The only certainty is that we simply don't know. I mean, that's the thing with Missing 411. It's why it's so infamous and why it lives on, is because you can't put a single explanation on any case.
No.
And it's also part of why David Paulides has such criticism against him, because people do like to, claim that he's cherry picking, that he is making things up. But there's so many different things that you can pull from these Missing 411 cases that if you wanted, you could skew them in almost any direction.
Oh, yeah. And there's multiple parts of these cases that can't be explained as well. Like where they ended up, how they got there, how they managed that kind of terrain, and just the ability. Just how is it physically possible? And then when you start getting into the other aspects, I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And yeah, I can honestly see credence to cherry picking, because he does have those cases that don't fit a single Missing 411 criteria, but are still labeled as Missing 411 cases.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that people forget too is Missing 411 doesn't stop at the United States and Canada. And that's why I kind of threw that thing in from Finland.
Yeah.
Is because it's a global phenomenon. It's globally that people go missing in these dense, remote areas, and unfortunately, there's no explanation for what happened. And it's all these mysterious circumstances that add up, and we just don't have a definite answer. But this has been our deep dive into the Missing 411. It's a long time coming, but I think that there's so much here. Like, we could do a part 2. We could do a part 3 of Missing 411.
I feel like we need to do the Missing 411 book reviews.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I want to know if you guys want to hear something like that.
Yeah, if you guys want to hear us talk more about Missing 411, the books, the movies, let us know. Again, check out Tubi. They're all on there.
Don't waste money. Don't waste money. Go to Tubi.
Go to Tubi. Yeah, money's tight nowadays.
Exactly.
But this has been our deep dive in Missing 411 to celebrate Culttober, Halloween, our favorite time of the year. I hope you guys have enjoyed. We will be having a very special Cult Talk Net production coming out tomorrow that myself and Eric and Mike worked on. I got the chance to write and direct, so I'm very proud of it. And that is our adaptation of The War of the Worlds, a Cult Talk Net audio drama. And make sure you guys follow us at Cult Talk Net on Instagram, Facebook, all those things to keep up with the news on that. Yes. Because if you guys like it, we might be doing more of them. So
I'm so proud of you.
You guys enjoyed.
Thank you. You took the thing and ran.
Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome.
But that's it for us, Bailey.
Yay! Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I
we'll be
hate
back
for
here.
it's one of
Good.
those things where I hate for fall to be over, but it's also like you it's like that famous quote, like, don't regret being in love, be grateful for the fact that you were in love. That's what fall is for me, and truly.
Yeah. But we'll be back here in November. We're not going away. In November, we have even another bonus where we drop in that we do every year. So you guys can keep your ears out for that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you guys follow us. Bailey and I are here every other Tuesday. Cult of Lore comes out every first and third Thursday. And they do a really cool full video aspect of it on youtube.com/culttalknet. Make sure you guys follow us at Cult Talk Net on Facebook, Instagram, all the things to keep up with all the news and specials we're dropping, because we put out a lot of extra content that people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of extra stuff that we have out. Thank you guys for joining us here for Culttober 2024. I think that does it for us, Bailey.
I think so too, Ty.
I've been Ty.
I've been Bailey.
And until next time, question everything.